Today we are playing the Game of Thrones mod for Crusader Kings 3 called A Game of Thrones. I won't lie to you guys, I don't really know much about Game of Thrones. I've seen the first season of the flagship, read the first book, and played this mod before, but that's about it. So let me tell you right now, if you clicked this expecting canon knowledge or accurate pronunciations, this might not be the video for you. But if you want my normal Crusader Kings chaos, I promise you're still gonna like what comes next. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video and remember to subscribe. I'm getting close to 100k, and even though I don't get a throne for playing games, YouTube will give me a plaque, which is close enough. One of the things that I do know about Game of Thrones is that there are dragons, and this mod also happens to have dragons. Unfortunately, when it comes time to the canon that I am familiar with, you know, Daenerys and Jon Snow and all of that, all the dragons, save a couple, notably, are dead. So, to make sure that my playthrough is as full of dragons as possible, I picked the earliest possible start date. That would be during the reign of the Conciliator King, Jaehaerys Targaryen, who is supposed to be, I think, a pretty good king, and of course also the papa to a bunch of incestuous little dragon riding freaks. From there, I know I wanted to play as a landed ruler, but nobody too important, so I decided to pick a duchy in Dorne, since I feel like they just have good vibes. I was intrigued by the duchy called Brimstone, just because I played Valorant before, but I decided the woman who owned it was too cool, and the guide to her west was boring and lame, and needed a replacement, so hello to Sandstone, one of my favorite Minecraft blocks, and also the duchy title we will be taking over for the duration of this playthrough. When it came time to creating my custom character, I genuinely had no idea what I was going to do. I know nothing about the Sand Dornish or any of the houses down here. I was just going to make a cool girl and then probably see where we went from there. I knew that I wanted her to be a dragon rider, so I gave her that trait off rip, and for her personality, I was thinking she'd be like one of those dragon lore freaks, like one of those people who gets really worked up about the difference between wyverns and worms and shit, and so I made her eccentric, inquisitive, and diligent, and then gave her a decent learning education, but other than that, I really had no idea what direction I wanted to take this. I randomized the name until I found one that kind of sounds like Jillian, because ultimately I'm a YouTuber and that makes me a little bit narcissistic. So we've got a name, Giala, we've got a personality, kind of, but I still really had no idea where this was going to go. But that's the beauty of Crusader Kings. I can plan these stories out meticulously or have all these preconceived notions about where this video is gonna go, and then I'll randomly generate a bald woman and the rest will just kind of fall into place. Listen, obviously I know women can be bald. I just didn't expect, especially after seeing all the elaborate hairstyles before this, to randomly generate Southern Lioness, or for it to look so earnest and kind, which kind of ruins my snarky dragon lore freak persona. But that's okay, sometimes plans change 30 seconds after you make them. So, with a face to a name, I quickly made up a house crest, finalized my beautiful girl, got distracted by how amazing my house crest looked on the map, and then got the game started. With this mod, giving a custom character the dragon rider trait means I get to customize her dragon's backstory too, either by choosing an egg, creating a dragon, or giving her a dragon horn from Old Valeria. I figured a dragon egg would be my best bet here narratively, not just because I have a hard time with the AGOT dragon customizer and accidentally made a dragon with huge naturals on my last stream, but because it means I get to have a hype reveal at about 5 minutes when my dragon hatches. Haha. After getting distracted again by the sheer amount of cool eggs, I decided to go with the Sunburst dragon egg because it sounded the coolest, and this gave me a dragon egg to put in my inventory. We're not done with the backstory yet though, because a maester, if you don't know Game of Thrones, these guys are like all-male scholars who wear these chains for attention and help out the noble houses, showed up to record my dynasty history since I created a new house. Basically, I get to pick here how it was that I came to own land. None of the options really stuck out to me, that I was a merchant who impressed my liege, or that I was a close confidant to my liege, that I was a military buff, or a scholar, or an orphan, but on the third page, everything just fell back into place. Yes, this is why a strange bald woman with a weird crest has appeared on the map. This is what I want to play. A jester who was so whimsy and wacky that their liege gave them a damn castle and turned her into a landed ruler. Selecting this option, of course, made my liege appoint me as his fool and give me a sick new costume. And while I was a fan of everything from the neck down, the headscarf was covering up my beautiful bald head. The jester hat was much, much better. So with our lore out of the way, it was time to start immersing ourselves in the world of Game of Thrones. Like many lost and confused souls, I turned to religion, where I had the choice to pick a patron deity of the 7 gods that make up the Westerosi pantheon. Just kidding, I'm apparently not pious enough to tell people which god I like the most, maybe because me, Jillian, can't name the gods at all. And you know, one thing I love about this mod is how deeply it lets you explore George R.R. Martin's world building, including the religions, technologies, and politics that make up the world of Westeros. You might not know this about me, but I love to write, and I love to come up with my own fantasy worlds, so I know how hard it can be to make everything come together and strike the balance between the fantastical and the realistic. The sponsor of today's video, Hungry Minds, the ultimate guide to rebuilding civilization, is a fantastic resource to have on hand, and it's also just an amazing, high-quality book to have in my home. It's not just a history book or a writing guide, it is a hand-drawn, specially bound piece of art that details an over 400-page journey through the most significant human inventions and how they contribute to the founding and upkeep of a civilization. Like, look at this page, for example, that talks about edible and non-edible plants. Did you know about the 5-15 rule, which you can use to test whether or not a plant is poisonous? On a slightly different note, here is a page from later in the book that talks about gunpowder. Turns out brimstone isn't just a fictional Westerosi county, it's also another word for sulfur. I absolutely love looking at these illustrations, or even just flipping through the book and seeing what random pieces of knowledge it contains. It also makes a great gift if something is coming up, like, I don't know, Valentine's Day, I don't know. So head to my description now to see how you can get a copy of the book yourself, and make sure to use my code JILLION, JILLYEON, at checkout to receive 10% off your purchase. Maybe you can use this book to create your own Westeros, and who knows, in a few years' time, maybe we'll be playing a Crusader Kings mod of the world that you created. Thank you so much to Hungry Minds for sponsoring this video, and thank you for checking out the book. Now let's get back to Gialla, whose story is starting by paying homage to her liege. I hired a caravan master, hit the road, and immediately found a loyal Herculean man who says he desires nothing more than to serve me unconditionally for the rest of my life. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when buff guys with kind eyes tell me they would do anything I ask them to, I do not turn them down. So hello to my new courtier. I mean, does that say husband? Haha, whoops, Arden. We paid homage to my liege, and on the way back we ran into a Greenblood, which I guess is a Game of Thrones culture, even though it sounds like a Harry Potter slur. His name was Gohan, and he was really dragging on my balls for me to hear his poetry. I guess it was pretty fire, because we decided to become a poet right then and there, but unfortunately, I guess my liege did not like that Dragon Ball joke, because he decided my time as the court jester was up. Let's take a look at our liege, by the way, shall we? Meet Prince Mors Nymeros Martell VI, a diligent, deceitful, arrogant fighter who reminds me a little bit of Gortash from Baldur's Gate. I don't know anything about his house or what his deal is, but I was pissed about being fired, so I sent him a mournful poem that the hoes loved. I clicked on myself to see if I had any dragon egg related options, and sure enough, I did. I had the option to cradle my dragon egg. Hell yeah, brother, if I had a dragon egg, I would never put that thing down. With my new accessory, I started seducing my husband to hopefully get some kids going, and speaking of seducing and kids, I was notified that one of the Targaryens, Visera, had tamed the deep blue beast Dreamfire. Not to be outdone, my own egg soon hatched, giving me a beautiful little orange baby dragon. Apparently there's no way to really know a dragon's gender until it has eggs, but for now we have somehow decided to assume that he is a male. I briefly considered naming him Jaehaerys to fuck with the king, but then I remembered video game characters can't understand bits, and so I went with Firestar instead, the fire who will save Sand Clan. I mean Sandstone, from whatever problems they're facing in Dorne right now. I don't know. You know what video game characters can understand though? Aura. And so unsurprisingly, my seduce scheme concluded successfully on my husband. With a new paramour and a new dragon, I decided I would go and pay the Great Conciliator and all his little white-haired dragon riders a visit. The best way to do this would be through a pilgrimage, since I'd also get piety that way and finally be able to pick a patron deity. So, with a caravan master and mercenary guards, look at that everyone, no danger on my route whatsoever, we packed up and headed to Visenya's Hill in King's Landing to pay our respects to Visenya, I guess? I don't know. While we were en route, I guess we also were fucking, because Gialla became pregnant with her first child and also gained enough piety to make up her mind on a patron deity. Reading these descriptions, the mother, who was associated with fertility, the maiden, patron of young women, the crone, the smith, I think it's pretty obvious who I chose. The stranger, neither man nor woman, yet both at once, outcast, wanderer from far lands,
less and more than human, unknown and unknowable. His face is that of death, his hand that which leads souls to the other world.
Anyway, the pilgrimage was great. No specific events procced, which was a bit disappointing, but at least I was notified that some dude from Bravos had apparently hatched a dragon himself and dyed his hair the same color to celebrate. Congrats, Oppo. Here's to parenthood. Not to flex, but I've got both a baby dragon and an actual baby now. Plus, my hair doesn't look stupid. Welcome to the world, baby Cedra, my daughter and heir. To celebrate the birth of her daughter, Gialla got the hots for some random marcher man. Unfortunately, he had a weird beard, so I had to shut that down pretty fast. We returned home, and still thinking I could potentially get some interesting events by visiting interesting locations, I fired up another pilgrimage to the gates of the moon. Pretty much immediately, we found a roaming band of strange travelers who belonged to a religion called the Faith of the Scourged. Now, maybe it's just me, but I would never join a religion that literally devotes itself to someone who is scourged. Is that crazy to say? Especially when you've got cool dudes like the Stranger who you can worship instead. Clearly this argument is amazing because it worked on these heathens, and I managed to convert them, including their leader, a 23-year-old gay woman named Saoirse Highborn, who also became my friend and joined my traveling entourage. Pretty much immediately, she asked if I wanted to go get drinks with her at a local tavern. I of course said yes, and then gave a toast in her honor. I didn't tell Gialla to do that specifically, by the way, it just kind of happened, so I'm sorry for all the accidental subtext. Don't get too excited. And bought a round of drinks for everyone in the tavern, thus earning me the eager reveler trait. Unfortunately, I then seemed to revel a bit too eagerly because I then got up on the table, fell down, and crashed into the wine cellar, quote, bravely adventuring where few women have gone before. This got me wounded, but the party doesn't stop when the floor breaks, and so we kept that shit going for a little while longer, thus establishing Saoirse as my best friend after I apparently helped her come to a religious revelation. Well, anyway, the rest of the pilgrimage was pretty boring by comparison. I wanted to send Saoirse a poem to commemorate the start of our friendship, and after seeing that she gained a beard, I mean a bearded husband, I sent her a poem about romance. My only other option was a work detailing her incompetence, okay, which I was not about to do. She loved it, and such ended our pilgrimage. I really like this shot here. I feel like we look like a girl group who does their choreography exclusively on horses. After getting robbed by some asshole named Joffrey and promptly putting him to death, I decided it was time to start getting back into the good graces of my liege. No jokes or poetry this time, just pure seduction with the help of my dragon, who is now 3 years old and who has developed the supporting trait. I guess Mors did like my poetry though, because almost immediately after starting the seduction scheme, he appointed me as his court poet. Lord Moribald Blackmont invited me to a feast, and so me and my new BFF headed on over to continue our new Bacchanalian streak. While I was there, I decided to make my intent to seduce Prince Mor, and after some nice wholesome conversation, someone slipped me a poem in a stunning reversal of roles. The very mention of your name is the balm for my weary soul. I wish only to have you close, that I may know if you're as thin as you look from afar. Stop resisting, you will be mine. Wow, how romantic, and not weird or creepy at all. I had 3 options here as to guess who sent it to me, and if I guessed right, they would become my lover. My choices were the sunny and not off-putting Sir Silas Gore and his charming house crest, Lord Bullcut over here, and my darling Prince Mor. I picked Mor out of wishful thinking, honestly, and was proven correct, thus making him my lover and ending my seduction scheme prematurely. Awesome. Hello, Prince Mor, I'm coming for your kingdom in one way or another. Now, despite the fact that I have been nothing but an upstanding paragon of virtue who abided by Dornish cultural standards of hairstyle and clothing, I then got the nickname The Insane, which is just preposterous. I'm not even a lunatic or possessed or anything. I just happen to have a bald head and enjoy how this jester hat offsets my complexion. Good news though, guys love crazy girls, and so Gialla still got pregnant again and then had her second daughter, the Hail Verona, that gave me what I guess is postpartum depression. I've never seen this before in base Crusader Kings, so I can only assume this is an addition by the CK3 AGOT mod team, which for some reason is very funny to me. Anyway, this gives me a narrative reason as to why I then immediately started looking at the available wars I could start. This one caught my eye. A war on the Ships of Dead Maiden, a pirate realm, to free the slaves. We had almost triple his soldiers, and not even getting pregnant by my married liege was enough to stop me from clicking that declare war button. We crushed those pirates pretty much immediately, gave birth to baby Clarion, and freed the slaves of Dead Maiden. This also brought in like 3 awesome freedmen to join my court, one of whom became my captain, and then immediately asked to marry an awesome warrior lady named Giselle. I tell you this because when I said yes, she then took up a shield with my house crest, which was just as perfect as you can imagine. Mor came to my court to see it. Just kidding, he was here to smash. But I didn't want to get our secret exposed, so I had him quietly removed, thus upsetting him, which is just so like a man. But to make it up to him, I sent him a poem about romance that he loved. And you know what? All this romance drama got me thinking though about my kids. And if I wanted to play the Game of Thrones myself, it would be time to start marrying them off and getting myself some sick alliances. By far, the best option for my 7-year-old daughter was the 51-year-old Sir Garrett Flowers of House Tyrell, who would bring in an alliance of thousands and thousands of soldiers. Unfortunately, considering this as an option crashed my game, so I took that as a sign from God, or maybe the stranger, to put this train of thought on hold. When my game booted back up, I was notified that a girl named Lyanna had hatched a dragon egg, and this got me to look at all the dragons who existed in the world. While I was doing this, I noticed that for some reason, Dreamfire was listed as being under my top realm instead of in King's Landing with the rest of the Targaryens and their pets. This is because Princess Visera, for some reason, had married a Dornish lord and become the court bard of Prince Mor. Now, I think that this Visera character is very interesting, but this all got me thinking. Here we have a dragon away from where the rest of them are, ostensibly owned by a member of the Dornish court. What happens if something were to happen to that rider? So, nothing personal, Visera, my beautiful vain gay queen, but I need to murder you to see what happens. I don't fully know what my plan is going to be if the dragon does stick around in Dorne. You know, this isn't the Fourth Wing, king, I doubt they'll let me have 2 dragons at the same time, but maybe one of my kids will be able to tame it or something. I don't know, this is mostly out of scientific curiosity. Speaking of scientific curiosity, I decided I'd get to work scheming on taking over all of Dorne again. There is an interaction to straight up claim your liege's title and gain an unpressed claim on the kingdom, but unfortunately, this takes owning about 40% of the title's counties, which I did not. So to broaden my options, I thought I'd try and at least make more my soulmate, which means starting a romance scheme. Unfortunately, he seemed to have changed his mind about my poetry and decided he hated it, perhaps because I didn't end this one with "Stop resisting, you will be mine." Remember that? I guess bad poetry isn't enough to stop his libido though, because we soon got pregnant with another one of his bastards, a comely daughter. Between our now 2 kids together, my natural charm, and my romance scheme success chance of 63%, I assumed that soulmate relationship was going to be on lock. So when the romance scheme ended, as they for some reason often do, with the target in apparent mortal danger, I went ahead and concluded it. Unfortunately, it seems like this prince might be a bit toxic, because I caught him in the middle of murdering someone, and he rejected me. Rude! Can you believe the nerve of these men sometimes? Well, at least one man will never reject me, my dragon Firestar, who at 10 years old was ready to be tamed in a very funny reversal of the warrior cat bit I thought I was going to run when I named him that. Anyway, I was successful and officially became his rider, and then celebrated our new partnership by doing a fucking flip. God, this character's the coolest. I can't believe my romance scheme failed. She's so cool. Now when it came time to betrothing my daughter again, the Lannisters' 20-year-old heir, much more age appropriate, agreed to marry her, thus securing me an alliance with one of the most powerful houses on the continent. Hello, Sir Reginald. I see you've got a blonde sister there. Don't get too many ideas. Anyway, next I started a scheme to deepen my bond with my dragon, which I believe would then make him more effective in combat, which, spoiler alert, he is definitely going to be involved in very quickly. We gave him our expensive meat, which he welcomed, then tried to raw dog him and somehow failed. Speaking of failing to raw dog, my lover Prince Mor then died after being poisoned and was succeeded by Prince Morian, Mor's dole son. I had not 1, but 2 mental breakdowns after this and decided it was indeed in fact time to use my dragon in a war. My first target was my neighbor, the brimstone lady who a few hours ago I decided was too cool to take over myself. I changed my mind. Meet Firestar. Also, remember about 30 seconds ago when I said I was allied with the Lannisters? Well, guess who said yes to helping in this war? So yeah, this was a slaughter, and my Dornish conquest is off to a great start. I guess in the heat of battle, by the way, we decided once and for all that Firestar was indeed a male. I have so many questions about how that happened, but I feel like maybe it's best if we leave them unanswered. Now, if you've been paying attention, my scheme to kill Visera has been at around 100% for a while now. I was putting it off mostly because I felt bad, but after winning the war, I decided there was no better time than a regime change to let a volatile dragon out and into the wild. So I killed her, thus freeing up Dreamfire, who returned back to the dragon pit of Blackstripe, out of my reach and into the clutches of the Targaryens. Not sure exactly what I expected there, but it was worth a shot. I'm sorry, Visera, you seem really cool. Good news though, there remains another dragon in Dorne, because I guess Visera left one of her kids, Russell Nymeros Martell, grandson to our ex-lover Prince Mor, and also grandson to King Jaehaerys, an egg, which he hatched and named Javives, which Google says is High Valyrian for beauty. And I mean, he's fine. Anyway, this is bad news for me, in that the guy I'm trying to usurp now has a dragon at his court. So, it's time to make some more alliances. My Hale daughter Verona was betrothed to Garmund Hightower, earning me 20k more allied troops, and my son Clarion got Muriel Hutchison, who had 3,000 troops to her name. My comely daughter Ariane got Jaspin Jourdain, whose mom had about 6,000 soldiers, and this all means that, with my dragon, and with the might of the Lannisters, I was looking at a combined force of about 41,000 soldiers, barely below King Jaehaerys in the Iron Throne's count of 46,000 soldiers. I very briefly considered declaring war on him for the hell of it, but then I remembered he also had like 10 dragons on his side, and that I have no idea how military stuff works in Crusader Kings despite playing this for like 2 years, and there was just no way that this war was gonna go well. So even though Firestar had developed the bloodthirsty trait, I abandoned those plans and instead headed to my new liege's coronation. While I was there, I did at least manage to wheedle out a claim from him for another Dornish duchy. I declared my devotion to him, and I guess I made such a good impression overall that he made me the Castellan of Dorne. Now, I don't really know what that means, but I do know better than to turn down employment in this economy. So, with my new claim, my new allies, and my new job, I decided it was time for more war. Unfortunately, it seemed my new liege Prince Moron had tweaked the laws a little bit, and I was no longer allowed to declare war on my fellow vassals without using a strong hook on him. This is very annoying, because this means I cannot steal his throne out from under him by slowly but surely amassing power and territory in his domain. So it was time to start fabricating a hook on him, I guess, which is basically just making up a lie and getting other people to believe believe it enough that I could blackmail him into doing what I want. To throw him off my scent, I decided I'd return to what worked before and send him a poem about romance, which he loved. We were then invited to a grand tournament, which I joined with the intention of seducing him, and I almost immediately succeeded. But the event for it is kind of weird. Let me read it out for you. I sit in the tavern with a small group of courtiers. I saw that gallant knight holding someone's sign, one of them whispers, and I quickly get lost in my own thoughts, observing the flickering of the candles. As I take a sip of wine, I reminisce about that time when I gave birth to my first child, Cedra. Do you want to hear a real story? I ask, turning to my companions. My option is then to say, quote, it's the perfect moment for some uplifting conversation, which then makes Prince Moron my lover. Is this like a bug or something? How does this work? Why are we at a tavern together at all? And why does thinking about giving birth somehow manage to seduce him? I do not understand. I mean, I guess I've never given birth before, but I do not imagine it as a particularly sexy activity. Quite the opposite, in fact, but I don't know, whatever you crazy kids are into. Unfortunately, our relationship was not quite able to blossom into something beautiful because he pretty much then immediately got the great pox, that's herpes, and I decided whatever the hell was going on here just wasn't worth it and broke up with him. It was fun while it lasted, I guess, but he wasn't done confusing me because as soon as the tournament was over, he decided to have another coronation and invite me to it. Is this something rulers can do? Just like have coronations whenever they want attention? I kind of assumed it was like a one-time, one-and-done type thing, but maybe things are different here in Dorne. Anyway, I went and once again managed to convince him to give me a claim that he will not let me declare war to press. I was then notified that my dear loyal husband had developed cancer at the ripe old age of 52. I sent him to my court physician, who made it worse and gave him an aggravated wound, and within a matter of a few seconds, my husband had died. Rest in peace, Arden, my Herculean king. I am so sorry I was not as loyal to you as I assume you were to me. Unfortunately, it's a video game, and I need alliances, so I immediately got to work trying to find a replacement. Unfortunately, again, it would appear that Gialla had made a decision without my input and declared that as a widow, she was too distraught to remarry. Hello? This seems like the kind of thing that I would get to decide, not her. Well, fine. We can't remarry, but at least we're still the Castellan of Dorne. Just kidding. Maybe our liege found out that I had no idea what that was since he rescinded it for some reason. Just one bad thing after another here in Sandstone. Unsurprisingly, I had a mental breakdown, and in the process, my liege found out that I was scheming to fabricate a hook on him, therefore destroying our relationship further and ending the scheme entirely. What's next? How about a win for a change? The prince dying under mysterious circumstances. Listen, I know how this looks, but you guys would know if it was me, and so would he, since he apparently discovered what I was up to minutes before being murdered by somebody else. So cool. New liege now, a 12-year-old scaly girl who for some reason did not want to let me be her guardian, a fact that made me so angry I took it out on some tiny island kingdom to the east that I apparently had the right to draconically conquer. The kingdom of the Stepstones. After calling in the boys to help, we absolutely decimated this guy and took his little islands for ourselves. So say hello to the new ruler of the Lordship of Shame Isle. I wonder why they call it that. And hey, while it's fun to declare war on these helpless pirate captains, it's not my main goal. My main goal is, of course, to continue conquering Dorne. Unfortunately, my new scaly liege inherited her dad's law that prohibits vassals from declaring wars on each other. So I got back to work fabricating a hook against her in the hopes of conquering the rest of Brimstone and also the duchy north of me, which I had legitimate claims on from sucking up at her dad's 2 coronations. While I was doing this, I saw that some other vassals had formed a faction against her. This is a mechanic I have ignored in the nearly 2 years that I've been making Crusader Kings content, and I kind of forgot that I, as the player, can join factions in addition to just having them created against me. One of these factions was a Liberty faction, which sounded exactly like what I wanted. I joined, immediately got promoted to the head of it, and then pressed my demands, sending this teenage girl an ultimatum to meet our demands of lowering crown authority. In the first good decision by a ruler in this entire playthrough, she acquiesced to, quote, avoid needless bloodshed. Sure enough, however, this allowed me to start some very necessary bloodshed against the High Lordship of Brimstone without needing a hook, and within a few months, me and my extremely powerful allies, who you got to think are only friends with me for my dragon, right, had taken over the duchy and expanded Sandstone further east. Now, I do feel a little bit bad for the poor scaly princess, as she was then gored to death by a boar and succeeded by her sister Tristana, who also needed some jergens. To flex on her dry-ass skin, I randomly developed the Desert Warrior trait, had a whole event about how delicious a blood orange was, and then got one of those events that is so laced with foreshadowing it might as well be from the intro of one of my videos. Let me read it out to you. My, what a breathtaking day outside. Standing at the window of my chamber, I am left feeling so glad to be alive, gazing down at the people moving about below in the distant wilderness outside. Refreshed, I am quite ready to start the day's business. Still, a little more couldn't hurt. Eagerly drinking it all in, I lean my head outside, relishing the fresh air wafting past the lofty room. And that's enough of that. Let me put this all a different way. I'm gonna fall out of a window to my death, and the clock is ticking. So I've got to get to work conquering as much of Dorne as I can before I go to meet my patron deity. Off to a bad start though, as I suddenly suddenly lost the vision in one of my eyes. That's fine, I only really needed the one to read the message that came from my neighboring ruler, Marcus Tion, the Silver Sword Dane, who wanted to arrange an introduction with me in the hopes of discussing the possibility of marriage. Seeing as I would get an alliance with 8,000 soldiers, I said yes and headed over to Starfall to meet this guy, and wow, surprise, it went amazingly. We became friends and got married. Not quite sure what he was thinking here, but with the help of my new alliance, I then declared what I figured would be my last war on one of the other duchies of Dorne, the Prince's Pass. Unfortunately, we're still not quite at smooth sailing yet because my other eye went out, rendering me entirely blind, and perhaps because I had married him and then immediately took advantage of him, I suspected my husband was cheating on me. Honestly, fine, so long as he was still sending me soldiers and that war score was going up, and I tripped and fell to my death. Well, I saw that coming. At least I conquered a duchy and hatched a dragon. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the story of Gialla. Before I lose you all with my ending the video shills, do you want to see something crazy? Remember how I conquered all those pirate islands or whatever and then just kind of randomly had them in my domain? Well, after Gialla died, I was playing as one of her descendants and I noticed that one of the leaders had randomly generated to be named Jillian. My name, Jillian, spelled the same way with a J and everything. Pirate Lady Jillian. Now this would be the coolest thing I've ever seen, except for the fact that she also has the fucking stupid trait. Can you believe this? I wasn't recording my audio for this, but I was cracking up. Of course, the randomly generated character named Jillian is fucking paranoid, charming, and stupid. So, okay, well, shilling time. Thank you to my channel members whose names are on the screen now, and thank you, viewer, for watching. This playthrough was not live streamed, but I stream myself playing Crusader Kings all the time at my Twitch, which I invite you to head to my description to follow. If you enjoyed this more scripted style of Crusader Kings playthrough, I'd invite you to also go check out another recent video of mine where I try to get the inbred trait as fast as possible, which is now also on the screen. If not, I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.